was 21 years old then. I remember a good deal of the years up to 21, which of course, if you think my years from 64 to today are history, think about this. What did you say in the car? You said you graduated in 2007?
In seven. Yes, sir.
2007. Do the math. 64. 64 would take 36 years to get to 2000.
Mm-hmm.
36 and 7, 42. There's a 42-year gap between my high school graduation and yours. And, of course, what I'm now between me being born, 1942,
Mm-hmm.
and turning 21, that's real ancient history from your viewpoint.
What was that like from growing up then in that time to like?
Well, it it was, well, in my case, a mixed experience, as you'll understand when I highlight those years. I was born 9 months after Pearl Harbor. My father, John H. Bailey, had been commissioned a second lieutenant in the United States Army through the ROTC, ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps, when he graduated from college in the late 30s, thereabouts. He and my mother were married, I think in 39, was the director of an American Indian Archaeological Museum in Davenport, Iowa. When Pearl Harbor happened. And all of a sudden, it was no longer Mr. Bailey, director of the Putnam Museum in Davenport. It was Lieutenant Bailey, you're in the Army now, and you're going to learn to be an artillery officer, and your first assignment is Fort Riley, Kansas. Kiss your wife goodbye, pack your uniforms, get on the train. You're doing Fort Riley January 1st.
Wow.
Pearl Harbor, December 7th. 30 days. Okay, okay. My mother still has letters that she wrote to my father at Fort Riley that he kept. Okay? One of them. Dearest,
Hi guys.
I saw the doctor this afternoon, and he thinks we're going to be parents soon.
Mm-hmm. You were born.
That's 9 months later, September of 42. I was born. My father was home in May from Fort Riley, Kansas, when hay fever, the pollen season struck in the Midwest, and my father and the Army discovered that he was medically unfit for active duty combat service and was discharged for medical reasons and was home in Davenport when I was born in 42.
So growing up, did you grow up in Davenport or did you?
Well, I was in the process of growing up in Davenport. I was 6 in 1948 when my father died. So I have 6 years of childhood memories that are compartmentalized
Mm,
because if it's in Davenport, Iowa, I know exactly what years it had to be because my newly widowed mother and my 4 year younger than me brother were swiftly, shall we say, transplanted from Davenport to southern Michigan, where my mother was from,
okay,
my mother's family,
okay.
and brothers and sisters. My people would be my aunt and uncle. Were still in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So at 6, then, Ann Arbor, Michigan, when my mother got a job as a docent, a tour guide, a walking teacher
Do you feel like
in a
that's where
big
you?
museum, in a big University of Michigan Museum of Paleontology,
I was just about to ask. Do you think
dinosaurs,
that your
that kind of
interest
thing.
of history and sharing it with others comes from your mother?
It could be an accident. I don't know. I don't know. However, my widowed mother uh, caught the eye of the director of the Museum of Paleontology, a 50-year-old bachelor. And before I knew it, I had a stepfather, old enough to be my grandfather at the time.
What was that like?
We worked it out, but it was not easy
Okay.
because when I was a teenager, when I became a teenager in the 50s, I was not what he expected a teenage boy to be and act like, because when he had been a teenager in the 19 teens, he was born in 98,
Wow.
1898,
Wow.
he was not prepared for rock and roll, long hair, etc.
You had long hair, Mr. John?
I had a ducktail. And a motorcycle, etc. He was into it. But we got along. We managed, but it was not easy in the sense that partly, I won't fault my mother or my stepfather in one bit. However, they proceeded to have 4 children of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So I suddenly became the oldest of 6. I was 14 when my sister was born.
Wow.
Margaret is 70 years old now. Think about that.
Yeah.
And between Margaret and me, there are three other half brothers, okay? From 50, 52, 53, 54, 55. And so when I was growing up and wanting to have a life, I was a surrogate parent and babysitter to my younger siblings. My 4 years younger brother, and my younger brother than him, and my younger brother than that one, and my younger brother than that one, and my baby sister, who was an infant when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
All in one big happy household family. My stepfather from Baltimore, Maryland, had grown up with two sisters in, mm, I won't say money, but well enough that they had domestic help
Mm-hmm.
servants. And it was not long before the six of us children had a nanny.
Mm-hmm.
Not a living.
But you would come in and out
She came at breakfast and went home after dinner.
dinner. Okay.
Mahala Jackson,
Okay.
a wonderful, loving, light-skinned Afro-American woman, Mahala Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
who was my mother's personal assistant in motherhood for a brood of six. Six. Fortunately, stepfather could afford this.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, I forget at what years Mahala was no longer our surrogate part-time mother figure. Okay?
Mm-hmm. I like how you said that, Mr. John.
Hmm?
I like how you worded that.
Yes. Because, uh, and someplace, someplace, someplace in the 50s, I guess, uh, by the time I started to have a driver's license in high school then, pushing toward 1960, okay, I can remember if I wanted to leave home in the evenings on dates, borrow the family car to go pick up my girlfriend, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was an issue of if mom and dad were out that night, socially or something on the university campus life social circle, then the issue of finding a babysitter or a
Right.
childminder for my younger brothers and sisters,
Mm-hmm.
where weeknights when I was not on the prowl, then I was the responsible adult in the house so mom and dad could get out.
Mm-hmm.
But this went well enough with its tensions. My mom, my mom, bless her, wound up in some cases having to be the negotiator between myself and my brother, who's 4 years younger than I was, as we started acting like many adolescents do, the way we bloody well want to act, regardless of what our parents or our stepfather old enough to be our grandfather expects us to act. And so my mom frequently had to be the peacemaker to try to explain to my stepfather not to take it personally. It was adolescence on John and Jim's behalf.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure that Woody, Bob, and Bill do not repeat the experience, okay? While you're still with us, yes, okay. But when I graduated from high school in 1960, I had, shall we say, had enough of living at home in a big university town. And although I could have gone to the University of Michigan, lock, stock, and barrel free, and lived at home since father was faculty.
Mm-hmm.
I was advised, and so were my parents for that matter, that there was enough money left over from my late father's estate that we could send John off to college somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I wound up at a private Baptist oriented university in Granville, Ohio, Denison University, just outside Columbus, for 4 years. I came home Christmas vacation and was home in the summers.
Mm-hmm.
But while in college, I worked in the fraternity house kitchen and in the physics lab, part-time jobs to help pay for
Mm-hmm.
it. But I was basically still tied to the house and home in Ann Arbor, my brothers and sisters, my mother and my stepfather, by the connection of when I'm not in college, I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That ended in 1964 when I went in the military.
Mm-hmm. What prompted you? What prompted you to go into the military?
Well, okay, I'll back up then. I had always been, I think, my father, John, was a bit of an adventure outdoorsman, explorer. What's on the other side of that woods? What's over that hill? What's beyond that creek kind of person. And so I had a lot of outdoor exploration experience as a youngster up to age 6 with my father. And so when a Cub Scout group started in my elementary school, leading toward a Boy Scout troop, as soon as I became age eligible, I was in scouting.
That's one. Thank you, Miss Sidestepping.
And
Love you
at
guys.
age 12, you could then leave Cub Scouts behind and join the proper Boy
Yes,
Scouts
sir.
of America.
Yes, sir.
And my Boy Scout troop that I joined was sponsored by the First Baptist Church, of which we were members, Mom and Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And it was founded, organized, and run by the sons, two men who had married twin daughters of one of the church elders family long term, okay?
Mhm.
And they were both returning Marine veterans from Korea.
Okay.
And so my Boy Scout troop, even if it was a Boy Scout troop, was a little bit more like a military outfit than one might imagine.
Okay. Why do you say?
It, it actually had a drum and bugle corps and marched in parades, and we learned to march. When the troop went camping, we had all kinds of capture the flag war games. All of our equipment, the tents, the cots, the cooking gear, was all military surplus that my two scoutmasters had
Welcome everybody.
collected from someplace. So when I got to college, at least, the whole notion of uniforms and order and discipline and military
Welcome everyone.
thinking I was surrounded by it.
So
Now,
you felt like you were meant to go into it because you
I'm,
did it. Yeah.
I'm just saying it was easy
He
for
really is. I
me
love him very much.
when I got to college, and there was the Air Force Reserve Officer Training Corps option to us if we wanted to take the part-time courses, wear a uniform on Thursdays, and so on and so on, and eventually become commissioned at graduation.
Mhm.
And by the way, when your junior and senior years, it was $90 a month if you were in ROTC. That was a lot of beer money, okay? On top of what I made in the fraternity house food preparation, dishwashing
Okay.
side job, what I made during the summers when I was home in Ann Arbor,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. So, and although Vietnam had not yet blown up quite yet, it was looking like it was probably going to.
Mhm.
And so the draft was, the draft was there, but it didn't
It didn't affect
didn't
you.
scare anybody.
Okay. Okay.
Not in the '60s.
Okay. So
Not,
people weren't really worried about the draft then.
hmm?
During the 60s, they weren't worried about the draft.
You were a college student. You weren't necessarily, but the minute you graduated, you sort of started to look and think, oh, now, wait a minute. Okay.
Because you knew that they would send you away?
It could.
Okay.
They were not drafting people in 1964, but it was it was easy. It was easy, and I'll just say easy to leave well enough alone. I'm already partway into this. I'm already a junior and a senior. I'm already getting $90 a month. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And I I knew I would have a job waiting for me when I graduated, maybe in uniform, but then it would be a start. Okay. So the well to put the timeline on things, okay. I did have college classmates in the ROTC program with me
Mhm.
who were commissioned same year I was, 64, who were killed in Vietnam, either shot down or, okay.
Mhm.
So it might have taken a year or two after they graduated before they got trained to be a fighter pilot and got shot down somewhere over Hanoi. But I was just saying that one could hear the thunder from Southeast Asia
Okay, so you knew that
when
something was
I was
happening.
in college.
So you knew something was
Yeah,
coming. Yeah.
I knew, well, we, all of us young men of that age, we knew, the whole Cuban Missile Crisis with Kennedy and Khrushchev and the missiles in Cuba
Mhm.
was when we were sophomores or juniors in college,
Mhm.
I think. Maybe in 67, I'd have to look at the calendar to tell you for sure, but
Mhm.
we knew the world was not going to be the peaceful place, and we began to suspect, I would say, that World War II, even though World War I was said to be the war to end all wars, how did that work?
Well, it didn't.
It didn't work well, did it? We
No.
had World War II.
Yes, sir.
Was it going to be the war to end all
No,
wars?
it didn't.
Yeah. So there was a certain, I would say, caution, ambivalence, thoughtfulness in my generation about, hey, you got to do what you got to do, what you think is best at the time, and hope it works out.
Yes, sir.
But sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It did. It certainly did. My college roommate in the fraternity house was also in ROTC. He wound up 1 year in school to be a weatherman, and before he hit 2 years, actually, I guess, or maybe 3, he would have been a captain then, like me. He was in Saigon. He was in Hanoi. He was
Really?
in Vietnam.
Vietnam, yeah.
So at least, my younger brothers, who were behind me by 6 years, etc., they had some serious issues.
What was that?
Well, a draft in Vietnam.
Ah, so they had to be drafted in.
Well, could have been.
Okay.
My brother Jim went off the grid and disappeared.
Really?
To avoid being drafted.
Okay.
Yeah, it took years to plan.
So you mean to tell me he ran away to avoid being drafted?
He did not want to go fight in a war.
I wouldn't blame him, Mr. John.
Well, next brother tore up his draft card and sent it back to them.
Wow.
And then they had a lottery where you drew, and he had a low lottery number. So the issue of having torn up his draft card and sent it back to them didn't come up because his number never came up.
Ah.
Okay, but that was the crisis of conscience that a number of young men my generation had to face. I had a high school classmate, very good friend, all the way through high school. Partway through engineering school at the University of Michigan when I was elsewhere, he went to Canada. He flat bailed.
So you mean he left the states
He left the States. He went to Canada.
to avoid it?
Avoid it. Because conscientious objectors, etc., etc., if you don't feel it's morally right to pick up a weapon and start killing people because your president says so, then you have a conflict. You got a moral
More,
issue you
yeah,
have to deal with.
yes, sir. Inside of you,
And in some cases, if you apply for conscientious objector status, then you could be sentenced to alternative service.
which is,
I don't know.
oh,
I mean, something like I'm trying to think of the kinds of alternative service that a conscientious objector could put up as an alternative service to the country that they would perform if they were granted conscientious objector status from the military.
mhm.
Whether it was being a house father at an orphanage or a bedpan changer in a hospital or
Okay, I got it.
who knows?
Yeah.
You know, but there were alternate service options if you could find one that qualified and so forth.
Okay.
At one point, my brother, I can say who disappeared, we knew where he was.
Okay.
We knew where he was.
But you wouldn't tell because you wanted to protect him. He didn't want to go.
No, my mother knew where he was. My mother was
It does make
a
sense.
serious peacenik. My mother was one of the founders of the Michigan Women's Strike for Peace
That's
in
cool.
the 60s.
That's cool, Mr. John.
And so we knew where my brother was, and he was working at a Catholic disadvantaged youth home in northern Wisconsin someplace.
Okay.
But when the authorities came around the house asking where's Jim, nobody knew. My mother said, "I'm sorry, I don't know where he is." My brother's, I don't know where my brother is. Why do you know? They couldn't force us.
No, they couldn't force you to tell.
He did get, shall we say, caught once when he happened to be home when the doorbell rang. And so then he wound up in court in Detroit as a draft evader.
So they could send you to court for that.
Yes, that was a crime.
Okay.
That was, yeah. I was in the military at the time. I came home on leave to appear on his behalf in court as his conscientious objector. You couldn't just say you were one. You had to, shall we say, bring in others to testify.
Okay.
etc.
Okay.
But he wound up convicted of draft evasion and sentenced for 2 more years of the very same community service
That he was
he'd
already
been
doing. Okay.
voluntarily at this home for, I think it was migrant children.
So they sentenced so they sentenced him back to do the same work that
No, the judge.
Yeah.
The judge looked at what he had been doing while he was evading the draft.
Okay.
And said, okay, yes, guilty as charged. 2 more years of what you've been doing for the previous 2, That's your sentence.
Okay, I don't think that was a bad sentence considering the fact that he didn't want to go into the military
No, of
anyway.
course. Here, he jokingly says he's a convicted felon.
That's what he
He
says?
cannot be a barber or a bartender in Michigan
Because
because he has a, a felony conviction from 1967 or 8. Anyway, but that, that didn't bother him.
No.
No, he continued his work in uh,
Oh, I love you, Miss
community
Sidestepping.
service
Thank you so much for being a
one
part.
kind or another, the Goodwill or mental health uh, homes for the mentally disadvantaged. He was a resident
Have a beautiful day.
childminder or a minder in a home for mentally disadvantaged individuals who needed to be watched and cared for.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he played it straight all the way.
So when you went into service, what was that like? Like going into the military, what was that like? Was it a culture shock or no? You said no because you had your prior experience. When you were
Well, no, the military is different depending on whether you are in the Air Force, the Army, the Marines, the Navy. Okay.
Mhm.
So in my case, it was interesting, but it was nothing like what it would have been for somebody in the Navy who was on a ship,
Mhm.
or somebody in the Army who would have been in the trenches in Vietnam, or somebody in the Marines who would have been fighting in the jungle.
Mhm.
Okay, it was a case of wear a uniform, salute people. People saluted you. Learning the ranks of the enlisted personnel and the ranks of, of course, we knew all those things from
Mhm.
ROTC.
Mhm.
And my first job was, you could call me, I would have been like an office manager, a foreman
Mhm.
of a group, two groups, maybe 30 or 40 people who were installing and maintaining radios and radars on Air Force bases throughout the eastern United States. And I was responsible for seeing that they were properly equipped, had orders, properly trained, transportation, accommodations at the remote station where they were doing the work, behaving themselves, etc., etc. So I was just a small time leader of men, but the men were not fighting alongside me. They were my people that were in the field doing work that needed done, and it was my responsibility to see that they got it done, and they were properly supported, food and transportation and materials, supplies and equipment. So it was not unlike a job of any middle supervisor manager in a high-tech business, except for the uniform part
Mhm.
and the yes or no shirt part and the military code of justice for behavior off duty and that kind of thing. But It was, yes, it was. What the part that was different wasn't so much the daily job. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it was the difference between those of us in uniform
Mm-hmm.
who were, for the most part, living, working, and socializing on or inside a military installation, and the civilian world of the community in which our where we where we were stationed or positioned, and the war, anti-war Vietnam protest business made it difficult for those of us in uniform to, shall we say, not be lumped with or grouped with in people's minds
Mm-hmm.
baby killers, people
Right.
who were napalming children in
You wanted to
Vietnam, that
maintain
kind
a
of
good
thing.
a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
image, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when when went back to went back to Dayton so my wife could finish grad school. That's where we got a real taste of it because she was, in effect, a military wife.
Wife, yeah.
Husband was a baby killer,
That because that's
and
what was being said at the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
the fellow fellow students in the grad school were
Protesting.
peaceniks, as it
Yeah.
were. Well, and entitled to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had some interesting social life with her uh, grad school classmates who looked at me as, oh, yeah, yeah. And of course, then she also was part of my social circle on the Air Force grad school. Now, these two graduate schools were 5 miles apart and separated by a million a million miles idea-wise and so on. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, she was in grad school, so was, but so we had to sort of walk both sides of the fence when she was in grad school with her graduate school faculty, community, fellow students, and get them to not lump us together
Right. As
as,
yes.
yeah.
With
It,
that.
it, it worked out, but
Okay.
it had its challenges, I think. We did then have some good friends who were classmates of hers in her graduate program
Mm-hmm.
that stayed friends for years, although when the military sent me all over the place, their lives took them to wherever their lives took them.
Right.
They became almost Christmas card only friends
Yes, sir.
that we never saw again, except we swapped Christmas cards because
Mhm.
we had been fairly close for a year or two as graduate students. So I would say that one feature of those years, for me at least, was the dotted line between professional career military and the civilian world of not any form of hostility,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe a lack of understanding completely how the game was played on either side of the fence. Okay, civilians did not necessarily understand how and why the military worked and acted the way it did and did. And those of us in the military would look at the civilian economy, culture, and so on, and think, what on earth's the matter with those people? Can't they see that? Yes, okay. It was. Look over the fence and see that your neighbor is not behaving the way you think, and he's looking over the fence and wondering how you're behaving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was not a problem in the sense that nobody lost any sleep over it. I don't think any arguments ever broke out, but it was always a case of when you met someone socially, they didn't know what you did and how and where you did it, and you'd have to ask them what they were doing and where and how they did it because they were doing something that had not been a business or a career when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we all wanted to grow up to be cowboys, uh, airplane pilots,
Mm-hmm.
policemen, lawyer, doctor, lawyer, merchant, baker, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so if somebody said I'm a lawyer, well, oh, yeah, I know what you are. Yeah, but you didn't necessarily know what it was like to be a lawyer because you weren't a lawyer. You were, and he didn't know what it was like to be a research and development manager in the military because that's what you were.
Because that's what you were, so he
Yeah,
wouldn't
so,
understand.
there was, uh, and trying to explain to people what I did for the 4 years I was in Great Britain, that's even harder to understand for anyone in the military or civilians.
Yeah.
Raising. I hope that's the beginnings of what you wanted.
It is, because we're going to have to break it up into pieces, because you are a wealth of knowledge, Mr.
Well, no,
John.
it isn't knowledge.
Well, you're at life experiences.
Well, no, careful. Life experience is one thing. Knowledge is something else. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I draw the line there. I mean, maybe I've told you this already, but I read a humorist book or column or an article in the past year. The author said, at my age, I have learned so much from my experiences. No, I've learned so much from my mistakes. That's it. I have learned so much from my life's mistakes, okay? I think I'm going to go out and make some more.
I like that.
And you see, there is the difference between experience and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Experience is one thing, but if you have not learned something from it, okay, then there's no wisdom. Another quote that I picked up somewhere, if you know what you're doing, you're not learning. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Which basically encourages one to step out of one's comfort zone. Open a book that you don't even know how to pronounce the author's name, okay, and start trying to learn. I mean, there's a book over there, for example, that I picked off the free shelf at the library because I could make no sense of the title or the author's name. Okay? I said, what is that? So I brought it home. Fascinating. Learning about what was going on in Ethiopia, the African country, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, leading up to its revolution, its independence, and the author's eventual disappearance, they think kidnapped and killed in 1984.
Wow.
And I was paying no attention to what was going on in Ethiopia in the 80s. It may have made the news, but it wasn't on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being willing to deviate from what I usually read for amusement and grab a book whose title and author's name caught me completely off the wall. Okay? Yes. Look at that.
Orome.
I did not know what the word Orome meant in one of the African languages. A person whose name was got double A's in it, L-U and Gurma, is obviously probably not John Smith. Okay?
Okay.
I certainly did not know that he was Ethiopia's most prominent novelist, who was famous in Africa, for example. And that was the book that eventually probably led to his assassination.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Anyway,
That's amazing.
yeah, no, it's just an example of what can happen to you if you are willing to turn your back on your comfort zone completely and jump into something completely new to you and stick with it. Don't give it up as, oh, this is boring, I don't like it. You know, it's like, you put it on your plate, you better eat it, you know, like my mother, and serve all, take all you want, but eat all you take.
Yeah.
That's was kind of her attitude with food and books and other things. Don't play around. If you're going to get into it, you have to get into it.
Yes.
And of course, that was my mother on the peace movement. Okay, if you're going to get into it, you're going to get into it, so to speak. That's how she became one of the founders of Michigan Women's Strike for Peace in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Mr. John, I really appreciate you sharing yourself with me. And hopefully I get to share this with other people too. And
I look, like they say on the television commercial, your results may vary. You may discover, like showing somebody your home movies, they would find that boring.
I find it truly interesting.
Well, fine.
Yes.
Now, if you discover that you can find another person who's excited with that,
I found other people who are excited. That's why I would like to come back again if you would let me and share more of yourself.
Hey, if you're welcome to do it.
Okay.
And I'm flattered that you think so. I will be interested to know how it turns out.
Okay, thank you.
I heard somebody on the radio carping about something that they did on YouTube or MySpace or what's it posted pics, and I got 4,000 likes, and he only got 200 or something. I mean, they were using likes
Yeah, that.
on some internet
Yes, sir.
meme as a value judgment
Yes, sir.
of whether who was right, who was wrong.
Mhm.
I, 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 I thought I could not let myself decide the value of my actions and existence based on the number of likes
But that's what.
that a YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
but that's the world we live in, Mr. John.
No, but you say that's the way we're living, but no. My point is, I would in no way change what I'm doing if you were to come back and say you only got
Oh, I would
5,000
never. I
likes.
would never want you to. I just want you to be you, because
But
you
no,
are.
but you say,
Yeah.
no, you say that's the way we're living, and I reject the notion
Me
that.
too. To chase a like, but no, I don't want.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that was what I was astonished to hear. I think it was either a disc jockey or a comedian or a talking head on one of the radio programs make this comment about who got more likes than the other,
Yeah.
implying that somebody with more likes must be doing it right, somebody with less likes is doing it wrong,
Yeah.
and ought to change
No.
to redo it.
Yeah.
And I say, heaven help us if that is the way we live, making our decisions based on TikTok, oh my Lord, or Facebook or YouTube or
Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah, I can't.
No, for me, I chase. Why I am so interested in you is I chase knowledge, I chase experience, and like you say, learning. I chase wisdom, and so
no.
you teach a lot, and you're open to teaching, and I really appreciate
Well,
you.
now the teaching that I'm doing, aside from what I did when I worked as a teacher with chalk in a community college, teaching engineering and mathematics and electronics, that is pretty cut and dried. In contrast to the teaching that, like, you did early childhood.
Yes,
you
sir.
tell me?
Yes, sir.
Now that is a whole different ball of wax with early childhood, and the sense that you are molding slowly and in ways that we only partly understand what those children will grow into.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that form of teaching is the real service
Mm-hmm.
to humanity. I can relate my experience to you or whoever's listening to this,
Mm-hmm.
and they can take it or not take it, okay? But I don't think it's likely to change their lives the way something you did or didn't do as an early childhood teacher could make a difference in where that person's
Trajectory. Yes, sir.
yes. So I can respect that idea, but again, that's part of just the frustration of being as old as I am and seeing not only the trail of my own mistakes and how much I learned from them. I'm gonna make some more, and then the mistakes lots of other people have made, and they haven't learned yet
Mm-hmm.
to quit doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, not my job to tell you what you shoulda, coulda, woulda done. It's your job to look over your shoulder and see how it worked and make your own self-corrections.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want, I don't want to be, so say, the overseer on anybody's life decisions. They've got to find their own way as it works out for them. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to end it here, but I'm going to tell you this, Mr. John. Thank you. Thank you for letting me film you, and thank you for...
got what you think?
Yeah, but
Film at 11?
I got a whole hour of you, but I would like to come periodically and just us hang out and
Hey, you're welcome to, yeah.
just listen to your life, and if we can film,
Well,
if not, I just want to spend time with you.
Well,
So
we'll pick a different time. Or, I mean, I don't have all the time in the world.
no,
Neither
right?
do you.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you've got a job.
Yes, sir.
I've got.
You got things to do, and one day I want you to show us around your workshop and how you
Well,
thinking.
the workshop is no. This is not a workshop. This is it's a temporary place to store tools and junk.
Mr. John.
I mean, I have workshops up north
At your other house.
in my two houses.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them is the carpentry workshop, one of them is the bicycle workshop, one of them is the gunsmith workshop, the other one is the electronics workshop. Down here, it's just whatever it takes to get the job done.
Yeah.
And not lose the tools.
Okay.
Yeah. But remember where you put that wrench down, you'll need it. And right now, I'm looking for a tool
You put it somewhere and don't
that I
remember.
couldn't find this morning. I said, I'm going to spend the time until you get here looking for it. Haven't found
Not
it
yet. Hopefully you'll find it today.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be today. When I find it tomorrow, I'll think, for crying out loud, that's where you put it. I know exactly what it looks like. And where it should be.
Should be, but it's not there. It walked away, Mr. John. It walked away on you.
Well, why it's not where I should have put it, I have to then back up and think, when's the last time you
used it?
And then you didn't put it back where it belonged. I need to stand up.
All right, I'm going to end here, and then I'm going to get my hugs from you, too.
Your what?
My hugs.
Your what?
Hugs.
Oh, hugs.
Yeah.
Get my hugs.